guys, it's Carly here for MFT, and today I want to share with you a card that has a super easy interactive feature that lets one critter move across your card. Now I have to tell you, cards like this kind of intimidate me, but it's really so easy to put together, and I hope you think so too after you see the process. So for this card, I'm using the pile of Squishmallows and the cute little puppy from the Squishy Hug set. And because you don't have all day to watch me color, I'm just showing you my little color map here because I've gone ahead and I have stamped, die cut, and colored the images already. And seriously, it took me like 3 hours, and I know you don't have time to watch that. So we're going to skip ahead to assembling the card. Okay, so I think I've got all of the elements I want on this card. I'm going to spell out the word hugs on the left side there with the modern serif alphabet dies, which is one of my favorite sets ever. I've got one of the channels from the hop, skip, and jump set, and I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put that so my puppy will dive into that pile of Squishmallows. Now once I think I got it, I'm going to tack it down with a little bit of low-tech tape and run it through my die cut machine. Now I'm going to get my little sliding element ready. So I've got the spin and slide discs that MFT makes that are so great, and I'm just going to attach them to little circles of cardstock. I just needed to make sure the circle was small enough that you wouldn't see it when it's behind my puppy. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue. I'm going to put it on one circle of cardstock, and then I'm going to put the little sliding disc on there, and I'm going to set it aside to dry. Now, if you don't have time for it to dry, I totally understand that. You could use a little bit of really strong double-sided tape. You just want to use a small enough piece that it's only on that little disc. And while that's drying, I'm going to work on the rest of my elements for the front of my card here. So I want to do the hugs in a bright orange, I think, and I didn't want to color it with my Copic marker because that one needs to be refilled, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I grabbed an oxide ink that was pretty close in color, and I just swiped it across a piece of scratch paper, and then I'm just using my blending tool to kind of even it out. I let that dry for a minute, and then I'm going to run it through my die cut machine with those modern serif alphabet dies. Now, once I have this, I feel like maybe it's a little too orange, but I'm going to try putting it on my card and see what I think. Okay, so I want to make sure that my hugs word is lined up perfectly, and I really don't want to do any measuring, so I grabbed a width of washi tape that I think would be the right width to use as a guide, but this one is a little too sticky. So I'm going to put it down on my desk a few times to kind of unstick it, then I'm going to test it on the back of my die cut panel there and see how sticky it is. It's still a little too sticky, so I'm going to do it on my desk a few more times, and then my arm, and that way it just takes a little bit of the stickiness away so that when I remove it from my panel later, it won't tear my cardstock. Okay, so my washi tape is good now. I've got it on the edge of that panel so I can use it as a guide to line up my letters, and I'm putting everything down again just to make sure I like how everything looks because I did have some doubts about how orange this was, and yeah, once I got everything on there, it was too orange. So I'm gonna do the whole ink swiping and die cutting process again, but this time with pink. Now I'm gonna try out the pink letters. That's too pink, so I end up going with a mix of the orange and the pink. Once I finally landed on that orange and pink combo, I'm going to start adhering my letters. So I'm starting with the H so that I can put it so it's right behind that little pile of animals. That's how I wanted the spacing to be. So I've got some liquid glue on the back of that, and I'm just going to gently pull the tape up so I can put the top of the H down, and then I can put it back down and keep using it as a guide for my other letters. Once all of my letters are adhered to that panel, I am going to gently remove that tape and move on to the next part, which is a little bit of stamping. So I want to include part of a sentiment that's included in the Squishy Hug set. It says hugs wanted, but I already have the hugs. I only need it to say wanted. So I'm going to load it up in my MISTI. I've got the stamp on the lid already, and I want to test it before I commit to stamping on my project. So I've got a piece of acetate on top of my panel there. Then I'm going to use a piece of low-tack tape to mask the first part of the stamp that I don't want to stamp. I'm going to ink up the stamp with that tape in place, then remove the tape and stamp down onto the acetate to test it. So this will let me know if I've got my stamp in the place where I really want it. If I don't like it, I can try again. If I do like it, I can just clean that acetate, get it out of the way for next time, then tape my stamp off again, ink it up, and then stamp down onto my project. Now I'm ready to add my critters to this panel, so I've got some foam tape on the back of that big pile of Squishmallows, and I'm going to adhere it to the bottom of my little panel. Then I'm just going to trim off the extra bit of that birdie one with a pair of scissors. Now I'm going to finish my little sliding element. So I have the circle that already has the disc glued to it. I'm going to put that through the track, and then I'm going to glue the other disc on top. Then it is ready to slide in that cute little track. It just needs a puppy on top, so I'm going to glue the puppy to the top of that sliding element. And I probably should let the glue dry before I started testing it, but it's just so cute I couldn't resist. So I am going to set that aside for a minute, let it finish drying. I've got a folded card that I've stamped another sentiment from the Squishy Hug set on the inside of, and then I have put a lot of foam tape on the back. So this is foam tape to support this so the little slider element can still move, but not foam tape that's going to inhibit the movement of the slider element. So just test it a few times and make sure you aren't putting any foam tape in a place that's going to mess up your sliding element. And if you're like me and you struggle with lining up a panel and a card together, what can sometimes help is if you just remove part of the liner paper. So see that top piece that I'm going to really use to get everything centered correctly? I've only pushed half of the liner paper back. So that just gives me a little bit of wiggle room in case it's not right. You saw I kind of fiddled with it. And then I can just carefully remove all the other liner papers and really get it onto my card. The last thing I did was add a little bit of faux black splatter with a pen, and now you can see the card in action. So you can see this was actually such an easy interactive card to put together. The Squishy Hug set and that Hop, Skip, and Jump die set, they are just made for each other and they are so fun. So thank you so much for joining me, you guys. I hope you were inspired to craft today, and I hope to see you here again soon. Happy crafting!